Pharmac's apologising to thousands of women who will be forced to change oral contraceptives because supplies of some pill brands are about to run out. About 25,000 women, take the 4 contraceptive pills affected: Brevinor, Brevinor 1/28, Norimin and Necon. The pharmaceutical company Pfizer doesn't expect them to be back in stock until mid-February next year. Pharmac's acting medical director, Dr. Ken Clark, explains how widespread the problem is.
There's 2 principal ones that are in short supply, but also some of the alternative brands that we had organised when we knew about shortages of these are now short of supply as well. So it's a compounding problem.
And why are they short in supply?
It's a mixture of problems. Firstly, even well before COVID times, the company responsible here signalled that they were having some supply issues and production issues. On top of that, as I guess we're all aware, COVID has added a whole different dimension in terms of slowing up supply chains and production of all sorts of medicines, including, unfortunately, oral contraceptives.
OK, so there was an issue before COVID. What was causing that problem before COVID?
We don't know. The company did signal, though, that they were having difficulties with keeping up with demand and supply, and that's even back then we went and looked for some alternatives to help so that patients weren't left, women were not left without the exact formulation that they had been using. But as I say, not only are the out-of-stocks becoming more and more evident for these products, even the alternatives that we had arranged are now becoming problematic in terms of supplies.
Dr. Clark, when will they have all run out by?
Some of them very soon indeed, within the next few weeks, I'm afraid. Yeah.
And when are you likely to get more in?
The reality is, for some of them, possibly not until February next year. Naturally, we will hope for better than that, but to some extent, these are matters out of our hands. Yeah.
So how widely used are these particular contraceptives, and what does it mean for these women?
Look, there are several thousand women using these particular contraceptives. Of course, many women use oral contraceptives, but these particular ones are not the most common, but there are still thousands of women that use these products. What in practice it means is that there are other oral contraceptives available that work and work as well, but may not unfortunately suit these women as well, particularly in terms of effects on their cycle and their menstrual cycle, etc. So, of course, it's not ideal. We would much rather this was not happening, but we are asking that women and, of course, health practitioners talk and think through options in terms of other oral contraceptives or, for that matter, other forms of contraception.
Have you given women and doctors sufficient warning that this was on the horizon?
Yes, we have, but it's fair to say that the warning has been short in some cases because it was very short in terms of us finding out about it as well. But as soon as we've known about it, we've communicated. But there's no doubt that in some cases this notice will be short, and we apologise for that. Again, I can truly say it's not of our making, but that doesn't make it easy for women and, of course, their prescribers.
So the 2 principal contraceptives that are in short supply are supplied by Pfizer, right?
Correct.
Pharmac usually requires a guaranteed supply from companies, and companies that don't keep up that supply are in breach of contract. So is Pfizer in breach of contract here?
Look, we always look at those aspects. In general, the companies that we deal with are just tremendous in terms of maintaining their backup supplies and working hard, as Pfizer has, to help us
But
find
it can't guarantee you security of supply right now. Is that correct? No guarantee of supply from Pfizer?
That's correct.
Were they obliged contractually to guarantee supply of these brands?
Where reasonably possible, and I think one has to consider that these are not ordinary times.
But you indicated that the problem started before COVID. So are you looking at whether they have breached their contract here?
Look, we do consider those matters, but having said that, Pfizer have worked very hard with us to not only in terms of the supply of these actual brands, but in terms of alternative supplies. They have, I believe, acted in good faith. So
will there be any penalty for the company?
Look, that's not something that I can speculate on. But as I say, it's a matter of good faith and of everybody trying to do the best so that we can get supplies for women.
Are there any other drugs that are in short supply right now?
There are a number of medicines that where we've had signalled potential shortages. To give you broader perspective, there are always a small number of medicines where that's the case. But in 2020, given the circumstances, that number is of course greater.
So about how many do you reckon, Dr. Clark?
There are tens of medicines that are where there are issues about supplies. I'm pleased to say, though, that in all of those, because of stock that's held, because of efforts from companies and, of course, from Pharmac, that those supply issues have been mitigated.
So which ones are in, critical situations?
There are no others at the moment that I would say were critical. Yeah.
Not even paracetamol?
No.
Okay. And so others that are in, in high risk of shortage, what sort of areas are we talking? What kind of drugs?
It's a general mix of all sorts of things, including hypertensive medicines and others. But it's across. With the issues with supply, it's affecting all sorts of aspects of medicines, not just, of course, critical care medicines. It's anything. Yeah.
And that's Dr. Ken Clark. And Pharmac says there are other funded contraceptives available to women needing to switch because of the supply problem. And also the other drugs that there are supply issues with are listed on their website. Pfizer New Zealand has provided a statement which says Pfizer New Zealand is focused on providing a consistent supply of these contraceptives for patients and are committed to actively resolving this matter. Normal supplies are expected to resume in February next year. And Pfizer says patients who need to replenish their supply should discuss alternative contraception options with their healthcare professional.